In today's video, I'm going to be covering a topic that I get asked all the time, and that is, what are the basic settings for shooting sports photography? If this is your first time to this channel, my name's Jenna and I am a sports photographer. On this channel, we cover all things sports photography. Anything from the best camera gear to be using to what it's like to be behind the scenes shooting a sporting event. Have you ever had the situation where you are out at the soccer field and you are taking a photo of your kid playing soccer, and you're taking all these photos and you think that you've nailed it, and then you get home and they are completely blurry? Well, you are not alone. That happens to everybody who's first starting out sports photography. So today we're talking about what basic camera settings work best for taking sports photographs. We're going to break that down into 3 parts and focus on the major settings for exposure, which are shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Now, I've covered every single one of these in other videos in depth, so we're just going to talk about these specific basic settings in how they relate to sports photography. So first, shutter speed. When you're taking sports photographs, you really need a high shutter speed, which means that the shutter in your camera is opening and closing very quickly. So with your shutter speed in sports, you want something that is very quick. Generally, that number is somewhere around at 1,000th of a second or higher. I personally tend to shoot at 12/50th of a second or higher. This setting will allow you to freeze the motion that the athletes are doing, giving you a nice, crisp photo. Number 2, aperture. So when shooting sports, you really want to stick to a larger aperture, which is going to allow you to have that shallow depth of field where you get a nice clean image of the action, but the background is all blurry and you have that nice bokeh effect. Generally with sports, you're going to be somewhere around 2.8 or 3.2. It's important to keep in mind that with this, you are going to have to nail your focal point. The last thing we're going to talk about today is ISO. So ISO is one of the settings that is extremely variable depending on where you're shooting at. If you're in a gym, your ISO is probably going to be a lot higher. If you're outside in bright sunlight shooting a noon football game, your ISO is probably going to be a lot lower. So there's more freedom with your ISO than your other camera settings when shooting sports. It's important to remember that the higher your ISO number is, the more grain you're going to have. So just to recap, 3 basic camera settings for shooting sports photography. Number 1, a shutter speed that is high enough to freeze motion. Number 2, an aperture that is shallow enough to get the nice effect of separating your subject from your background. Number 3, ISO, which can vary depending on what kind of location you're shooting in. Now, as I've already said, I have other videos that go into these 3 settings more in depth individually. I will leave a link in the description to those so you can go and check those out. And I will see you guys next time when we are talking about how to position yourself when taking sports photographs on the football field. All right, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave me a comment below and let me know if you've tried out these settings and how they work for you.